In this lesson, we're going to find out how to import data inside Power BI. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll be using an Excel file to load our data, and then using Power Query mode, we're going to apply some data transformations. Let's get started. To begin, let's go to the Home ribbon and choose Get Data. From the most common pop-up menu, we're going to choose Excel. The data that we're going to use is called Data. We're going to double click on Data. We're going to wait for the Navigator window to pop up. This is all the tables that's available inside this Excel sheet. We're going to tick the box that's next to dim_customer, and instead of clicking load, we're going to press edit. So this will trigger the Power Query editor inside Power BI. So these are all the available columns inside dim_customer. On the right, we can see Power BI has already applied some minor data transformations, but we're going to apply a lot more data transformations. Let's take a look at the title column. You see there's lots of nulls in there. So it's generally good practice to remove columns that are not very relevant to us. In our case, this will be columns with lots of nulls. So instead of having this empty column sitting around here, we're going to go to Remove Columns, and this will remove the column from the table. Obviously, this will be added as an applied step. If we want to go a step back, we're going to go to Change Type, and the title would reappear, but we're moving forward, so we're going to go back to Removed Columns, and the title column is no longer there. Let's take a look at Customer Alternate Key and split this column. So we're going to split this column by going to Split Column, and then here's the options on how to split the column. So we want to split the column by non-digit to digit. So this means everything that's non-digit and everything that's digit will be split separately. So let's try this. By non-digit to digit, we're going to click on that, and the prefix will be on a separate column, whilst the rest of the alternate key will be added as a separate column. So do you see these two columns? We've already split it one column. Let's go over to the geography key, and we're going to apply another transformation. This time we want to replace values. So we're going to click on Replace Values, and a window will pop up that's going to ask us which values that we wish to replace. So value to find. Let's go for 26, replace with 96, for example. This is the very first row. We're going to click OK. And let's see how the value will change. So you see, there's no more 26, it's changed to 96. Let's continue investing our data and move on to a couple of columns to the right. We see first name, middle name, and last name. So wouldn't it be great if we have the first name and the last name in one column? So we can do that. We can highlight first name column, holding Control and selecting the column, and last name column. So these two columns are now selected together. We're going to press Merge Columns from the Transform tab. So we're going to press on Merge Columns. And this will say, okay, how do you want to merge these selected columns? Our separator will be a space. So there's going to be a space added between these two columns. And we're going to end up with one column that's got the full name. So this is the merged column that's got all the available names. So these two columns have merged together. So we can rename that. So let's keep it. Let's rename that from merge to something else. So there's an option here that says rename. We're going to press on rename, and we're going to say full. We're going to say customer name. Customer name. So now we've added another step to the applied steps. We've got merged columns and we've got renamed columns. Power Query Editor also allows us to pivot and unpivot columns. To do so, inside the Transform tab, there is an option to pivot a column. So let's pivot a column. So we're going to scroll to the right, and we're going to choose the gender column. So we're going to highlight the gender column, and we're going to press on Pivot. So Pivot column, a pop-up window is going to pop up. So use the names in column gender to create new rows. So Values column, we're going to choose Values column, or we can choose Advanced Options. Now, Advanced Options will apply an aggregate function to it. So how do we want to aggregate our data? In our case will be, let's count it. So count the customer key by gender. So this will create two additional columns that will count essentially if a customer is a woman or a man. So we're going to press OK. And there we have it. So two pivoted columns have been added. If we scroll all the way to the right, once the load is ready, so we're going to scroll all the way to the right, we got this M and F. So do you see? It says 1 if it's M, it says 0 if it's F. So essentially the count, this is how the count works in Power BI. It will not return the full count on one row because that would mean it will have the same value on each row. So instead, it's created two columns, it's pivoted a column, it's split it into two columns for male and female. Let's go back to our data. So we're going to scroll all the way to the left and choose a different column. So let's take a look at the email address. So the email address contains username before the email address. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way for us to extract this text on a separate column? Well, there's a way to do it. So instead of using the extract option here, which will replace this column with only the username, we're going to go to add column. So from add column, we're going to say extract. We want to say text before delimiter. It's going to ask us for a delimiter. In our case, the delimiter would be the @ symbol. So we're going to say @ symbol. We're going to press OK. And now we're going to end up with a column that contains the email address. So this will be something that's going to be right at the end of the table. So we've got text before delimiter. So perfect, we've got the username. So let's rename that real quickly. So we can rename this by double clicking the column header. And we're going to call it user. So we're going to press enter. And again, another applied step has been added to the list. We can also add something called indexes. So we can create IDs for each row. To do so, you can go to index column. So we're going to say from 0. This will create an additional column that will add an index to the whole table essentially. So we're going to end up with a column that's got the index from 0 to all the way until the end. So this will be quite useful. Sometimes we may need to have an index, we may need to add an index to a column, to a calculated table, whatever the purpose of the index is. Power BI allows us to do it very easily. All we have to do is to go to add column and choose index column. It's quite straightforward. Another transformation we can apply here is we can format things in a different way. So for example, let's highlight the user column and click on format. So we want to change the user to be all uppercase, and then within seconds, the user will become all uppercase. So all uppercase, okay, that's fine. So instead of applying it on the actual column, it's applied it as an additional column. Why? We've chosen format from add column rather than transform. If we applied the same thing on transform, the user column would have become in uppercase. In our case, we've created an additional column that contains the username in uppercase. Let's go to the view tab. So inside the view tab, we've got the advanced editor. So I'm going to press on the advanced editor, and this is the code that's behind all these sophisticated data transformations. We don't need to apply any additional data transformations, so we're just going to press done. And once we are happy with the transformations that we have applied, we can go back to the home tab and we're going to click on close and apply. And within seconds, the changes that we've applied to our data will be imported inside our model. So we are waiting for the apply query changes. Once the data is ready, we're going to go to the data view and we're going to investigate our data just to make sure that all the applied steps have been kept inside Power BI and we can continue building our reports with the changes that we've applied. And I'm just going to switch over to the data view. So here's our data. As you can see, we've got customer name. We've got the email address, which is fine. We're going to scroll all the way to the end and see the additional columns that we have added. The additional columns are male, female. We've got the username. We've got the index. We've got the text in uppercase. This is all working fine. You're going to see the split column that we've also created. So here's the split column, customer alternate key 1, customer alternate key 2. And this is how the data works with the applied steps from Power Query. We'll see each other in our next lesson.